Hi everyone, Misha Mira. I'm spiritual success coach, breatharian healer, and modern shaman. And today I'm going to talk about spiritual attachments and 10 indicators that you might have a spiritual attachment or entity, and then some tips on what can be done about them. So oftentimes people will not recognize the signs of having an attachment, and so they will just go through life beating their head against the wall, not knowing why. And then many times people will feel like they have a spirit attachment and then they don't, that it actually could be something that they've repressed, or an aspect of themselves, an aspect of their soul that has been that has gone away due to trauma, or a part of themselves that has been put in shadow that just needs to be reintegrated and brought back out into and acknowledged and worked with. So some of these things that I talk about doesn't necessarily mean that you have a spirit attachment. These are indicators, and it can point to that as one of the possibilities. So I don't want you to go into fear and feel like, oh my gosh, I have all of these, or I have 5 or 6 of them. That means I have a spirit attachment. It doesn't necessarily mean that. But if you do, and these can be indicators, then you can actually move into being able to free them and free yourself and come into more personal power and freedom to express in your life the way that you're meant to, instead of being held back or stifled constantly. And the other thing that I want to talk about before I go into this is that even if you have a spirit attachment, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is evil. I have had spirit attachments from loved ones, and then I have had darker spirit attachments or entities that have had not so positive agenda. Either way, they were released. I feel so much lighter, and I will actually tell my stories of those, if not in this video, in other videos. It can be a beautiful process. It doesn't have to be scary, and you're not a victim to spirit attachments or entities. They do not rule over you, and you always have a choice to say what you accept and what you don't accept. Now, sometimes that's not the only step that you take. Sometimes you have to work with removing them. Just saying, no, you're not welcomed here isn't enough all the time. But in combination with the things that I'm going to talk about, you can work with your setting boundaries, with working in removing them, and in working with several steps that will work. And this has been my experience in removing them, and it can be a beautiful transition for not only you but them as well. They are ultimately happier moving on and out of your energy field. So it's a lot of times just a process of allowing them to see this and helping them move on. So what I'm talking about today is meant to empower you and not to put you in a place of embarrassment, shame, or fear. Fear is moving in the opposite direction of where we want to go, and it actually can make the releasement of any attachments more difficult. So we really want to come from a place of love and hope, and knowing that this is something that may be happening, but it's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world, and it's not something that is controlling you ultimately. and it won't take over your life ultimately. So with that said, let's go into the indicators and solutions for it. So one of the main indicators that I have noticed working with others and myself is that there could be an event that happens in your life where you feel completely different after a certain event. So, anything that, any time that you feel like I'm just not myself, I just don't feel like myself anymore. I feel like another person, I wouldn't act that way before. I don't know what's going on with me. That can be an indicator. It can also be, I've not been the same since this happened in my life. I've never been the same since, this certain event took place. It can also be like after a hospital stay or after losing consciousness, mysterious illnesses, or losing or blacking out due to substances, or blacking out for no reason at all. At any point where you've lost consciousness, and then when you came back to, where you felt completely different in a way that feels limiting to you, that can indicate a spiritual attachment. So again, just feel this out. It's not a scary thing. It's not a bad thing. Just feel it out and be able to answer. Yeah, I do resonate with this, and I can acknowledge it, and stay in a place of love, because you haven't done anything wrong, and you didn't ask for this, and it's actually more common than you might think. So the second one is if you're having constant drama and conflict in your world, that doesn't mean that you're causing constant drama and conflict, but if you're attracting it around you all the time, and you're just so frustrated by all of this drama and conflict around you constantly, this can be an indicator that you have a spirit attachment that has attached to you, that is stirring this up, or that it is attracted to this sort of thing, so it wants to keep that going. So it can also be that if you find yourself really instigating and getting into conflicts, arguments, drama, and you're just going, why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep picking fights with people? Why do I keep, causing and seeming to enjoy this drama? That can also mean a spirit attachment. And so, I hear many people say, I hate drama, but yet they're creating it in every job they go to, in their personal relationships, in their family relationships, and they're seeing it around them. Then that can be something to look at. Number 3 is when you notice that you just obsessively think, like you have this thought come into your mind and you just cannot stop thinking about it. You just loop on it and loop on it and loop on it. This can be an indicator that you already have a spirit attachment. And this can be something that is very appealing to spirits and entities. They love for us to think about something obsessively, just obsessive, going over and over and over this problem or this thought. And, they just, it's candy to them. So even if you don't have a current spirit attachment, whenever you do notice that you're obsessively thinking about something over and over and over and you can't let it go, just become aware that that's what's happening, and just really gently try to come to a place of stilling the mind. So you can go out in nature, you can meditate, you can just find an activity that can really get you out of your head and worry and obsessive thinking, because that can attract spirits to you if you don't already have an attachment. So it's something to be aware of. And I catch myself doing it all the time, but it's the awareness of it and being able to stop it in action brings that power of choice back in. All right, so let's see, number 4 is if you've done years and years of spiritual work and you've just felt like you have done course after course and you've just worked so much on your personal development and you still feel stuck, this can be because of a spirit attachment that's holding on. And the beautiful part about this is that once that spirit attachment is released, then all of this, all of the rewards from your work can just really flourish. And it can be just a beautiful release and transformation. And number 5, if you constantly are resisting life and the world and trying to hide out, run away from people, push people away, just really alienate yourself, isolate yourself, this can be because of a spirit attachment that just really doesn't want you to connect with people that, not that you're a victim to that, but you can develop this and it may not be your desire at all. It may be the desire of the spirit or entity itself. And so if you're naturally extroverted, you love people, and then you start noticing that all of a sudden you don't want to leave your house, you don't want to talk to people, and there's this dramatic change, then that can indicate a spirit attachment, and that can actually be driving your desires for that. So something to be aware of. And again, in releasing that, you can have that, zest and joy for life come back in, or come out, I should say, right away. And along with that is the inability to move forward in life. If you feel like I've tried everything and I just can't get ahead, I just can't move forward, I can't move past this feeling of just wanting to isolate myself, or agoraphobia, or depression, or anxiety, like I just can't move past it, I can't get back to who I used to be, that can be an indication. And while I'm talking about this little part, I want to also mention that you can notice that you'll start craving different foods that you never craved, or drinks that you've never craved, or you'll desire things you never desired before, along with this isolation. And it's a change in behavior on multiple levels. So you might say, wow, I used to be so outgoing, I loved people, and now I just want to stay at home, I just want to eat meat, and I never ate meat before, I want to eat junk food, and that's so not like me, I'm usually a healthy person. This can be an indication as well. All of a sudden you're drinking coffee and you never liked coffee before. So you can literally feel like your whole life has changed and you're somebody different. And because that you might be, these might be the desires of the spirit that is attached to you rather than your natural desires. And whenever we attract spirit attachments, they usually are attracted to us because there's something in us that is resonating at their level. And we'll talk about later what we can do for that. But so I just want to mention that because I've heard that quite often. People will say, I'm eating different things, I'm drinking different things, I'm acting different. And so that can be a time where you go, oh wow, maybe this is what's happening. Another indicator can be if you are just having anger, so much anger that you can't let go of, that doesn't necessarily make sense or isn't related to anything, or rage fits that just come out of the blue that you didn't have before. Now, I'm not talking about normal anger related to grief or, the stages of grief that you might go through. Like, these are perfectly normal. And anger is just something to, it's just energy that can be moved out in a healthy way. But if you notice anger and rage and you're wanting to just attack people, or you just want to fight because you have this inside of you, and that's not normal for you, that it could indicate that there's been a spirit attachment that is just angry. And it may have been attracted to anger inside of you, but the acting out of it is different. It's coming out in unhealthy ways, that you feel out of control, that you feel like something else is taking over you and you can't stop it. These sort of things could be indicators of a spirit that's really just kind of trying to take over. Again, you always have free will, and you are the authority over your domain. And so when we get to the solutions part, you'll see that that it's not hopeless, and that you're not a victim to this at all, and you didn't ask for it, but you can work on putting a stop to it. Okay. The next one is, and this is a big one, is chronic unexplained illnesses. So a lot of times when people have gone into the hospital, or have experienced a death, or gone into a haunted place, or a place that has spirits there, when they leave that place, they can all of a sudden develop chronic illnesses. They'll go to the doctor has no explanation for it. They don't know why, they don't know what happened, and you just keep having one mystery illness after another. This a lot of times can be because of a spirit attachment, and this, again, what I've seen is that once that spirit has been released, or that entity has been released, then those symptoms disappear. And I've had personal experience with this as well. Another one can be that you might find in your life, all of a sudden you just don't trust yourself anymore. You feel like you can't trust yourself. And this can feel like, because you feel so different than who you used to be, that you don't know what to trust. You don't know how to trust. You're having these unpredictable desires and emotions and energy inside of you, that you feel like you can't trust yourself anymore, because you don't really feel like yourself anymore. And this is completely normal. It's more common than we usually hear about, and it's something that, again, once that has been released, then all of a sudden you feel like, oh, I can trust myself again. I can access that core part of me that knows, and it can be so empowering and a beautiful change. So, and then lastly, I've heard quite a few people talk about this one, and I actually had an experience of this when I was younger, is that you can feel like you are being suffocated at night, and many times memories will come in later of being visited at night by a spirit, and people will say it felt like it was sitting on top of me and almost taking my breath, and I couldn't breathe. So this can be something that happens, and many people will not necessarily remember that that's what happened, but they'll have a constant feeling of, when they wake up in the middle of the night, like that was happening. They couldn't breathe. It doesn't make sense. I know when it was happening to me, I didn't want to lay on my back, because I was afraid of this spirit that kept visiting me, but I didn't have the memories. I didn't recall those memories until years later. And so this is a lot of times people will have the memories of these visitations through hypnosis. And it could be years after it's happening, or it could be, that they don't know what's happening at night. They go to a hypnotist or hypnotherapist, and all of a sudden they realize they've been visited by a spirit, or that a spirit came and went into them. And so they're actually able to see what happened to them. So this is just one thing that can happen, that has happened to some people. And again, it's not something that you're helpless to. It can be released, and very naturally and painlessly can be released. It's not something that you have to keep living with. But this can be an indicator of that. So, let's see. I do want to talk about, I've mentioned entities, and there are so many, different types of stories about this, but I personally have had this experience, and other people have talked about it. The shamans in Peru talked about this, that if there is a dark entity or a bigger entity, or I've even experienced entities that are not just one spirit, but multiple spirits, maybe controlling a haunted place, or an area, or furniture, different things like that. It can be that if it's a darker entity that has a not so positive agenda, that there can be sudden infestations of bugs, roaches, kind of scary insects, or rats or rodents. This is really rare, but I did have an experience of this at one point, and didn't even know that that was related until this dark entity was removed. And after that, the infestation went away, and I'll talk about this experience in a different video, since we've gone a little bit longer. But so again, it's nothing to be afraid of. And my own experience of this was the infestation was with roaches, and I hate roaches. They scare me. They're just not right. And they acted different during this time. Like they didn't, I know this is going to sound really possibly crazy and out there, but hey, I'm just sharing all of this so that you have knowledge and awareness. But it seemed very bizarre the way that these roaches were acting. They weren't, it wasn't like normal reactions. And it was really scary for me at the time, because of it was just, I didn't know. I didn't have all of this information, and I didn't know that I didn't have to be afraid. So that's part of the reason that I talk about this stuff, and that I'm doing this video, is that it's best to not go into fear, because it actually made it worse and bigger. But this can be something that happens. Now, this doesn't mean that anytime that you have, ants or spiders or roaches or mice, it doesn't mean, oh my gosh, I have an entity that's haunting me. And in fact, most of the time it doesn't mean that. But the way that I experienced it is I felt that heavy energy first, and like this haunting feeling first. And then this infestation happened. So it wasn't the other way around. I was already aware of feeling like I was being hunted, and that is something that can indicate an entity, and also nightmares. I was having nightmares, and all of that happened before. And then it was removed. And the way that it was removed is one of the solutions I'm going to talk about, is through Olympia. And this is such an effective tool. And every client that I've worked with Olympias, they've had huge releases. and just really, they were able to release, so much of what may have been attached to them, and then bring in so much light and come back to themselves. And these were the ones that, we went in and looked to see if there was something attached, or if there was an entity or something. So, it was clients that I had worked with for a while, and then we, got to these levels, and, we're able to work on it together. But the Olympia, all the sessions that we've gone into with Olympias have been just profound and beautiful. And so my experience when I was going through my healing that was where I had the biggest releases and had the biggest changes after, and felt just so much light after, and felt like so much myself, and that these entities were actually gone for good. So Olympia is huge in removing entities, spirits, disembodied spirits, and spirit attachments. Very effective. The number one thing that I tell people, if they're wanting to, work on it themselves and not go to a healer or shaman, is to focus first and foremost on purifying, because any of these spirits that are disembodied, or that are looking for, to attach to something, they're normally attracted to a certain resonance. And so if they're an angry spirit, they're going to be attracted to anger in a person. If they're, name it, pick it. If they have evil agendas, if they want power struggles, they're going to be attracted to that within someone else. And so if they're fearful, if they're very frightened, they're going to be attracted to fear in someone else. And so what you want to do, toxicity, toxic spirits, they're going to be attracted to toxicity. So you want to make sure that you're as pure as possible. And the shamans talk about this as well, that, the key is to be a pure spirit, and then you can do pure work, and that you attract pure, higher vibrational spirits of compassion and love. And toxic equals toxic. So you want to clean up your environment. I suggest doing smudging with sage, sweetgrass, and copal. These clear out negative, and also bring in positive. You can use Palo Santos. It's a beautiful sacred wood that you can burn, and that brings in positive. So you don't always just want to walk around saging and getting rid of negativity, because then you're not bringing in positive. So sage just clears energy. It can clear the good with the bad. And so you want to, if you use a lot of sage, which I recommend at first, if you feel like it's in your house, you'll want to use a lot of sage. But when you do that, you clear all the energy out. And so you want to go back in and invite positive energy and light to come back in. The other thing that you don't want to do is just sage the whole house and leave the windows closed. You want to allow an exit for any spirits that are in there, because you don't want them just, moving around the house. And you want to sage all the corners in a house. You want to get it really, really smoky, and maybe leave for a little bit and come back, and leave a window open in the room so that it can move on out. And then you can come back in and use Palo Santos and invite, just the lighter, compassionate, positive, or lighter spirits back in. So that's for your environment. You want to purify your mind. So you can use certain music. I have recommendations that I like that really put you in a lighter, higher frequency state. I always like chanting monks, or I have an audio of just Om, and that clears a lot. Positive affirmations, just beautiful, uplifting music. We'll do that. You just want to be able to clear your mind. You can also meditate, and to clear your mind, purify your mind. Then you want to purify your body. If you're putting a lot of sugar and toxins into your body, then your body's going to be in a toxic state, and you're going to attract toxicity in energetic form or spirit form. So you want to clean up your diet, cut out salt, cut out sugar as much as you can. I mean, actually, cut out sugar altogether. Substitute with stevia or agave. Cut out as much salt as you can. You can substitute it with liquid aminos, Bragg's liquid aminos. Tastes like soy sauce. Or you can just cut it out entirely. Watch what you're buying at the store. There's a lot of hidden sugars and salt in most foods and drinks. And you just want to continually drink pure water and stay focused on being pure. The other thing I like to do is I'll go to a body of water, a river, a lake, the ocean, even a bath. You can use the water to purify you. Just have that intention when you're in the water to purify you. I do that regularly. You can do that in the shower too. And I have videos talking about clearings that you can do, chakra clearings when you're in the shower. So just focus on every level of purifying self, environment, all of it. And that will do wonders if you're just wanting to do it on your own. If that doesn't ultimately seem to help, then you can, I have a couple of videos. One is on Toltec breathing. That's really good to release anger and toxic emotions. And I'll put that under this video. There are, soul quests that you can do. You can do recapitulations, which are any sort of death and rebirth, journeying, recapitulation, anywhere that you just go in and you just release and have a sort of mini death, a spiritual death, and then a rebirth. Those can help as well. And Olympia, as I had mentioned before. And if you do a number of these and you feel like it's not, you need more, then reach out to a shaman that you trust. I'll put my services below if you feel called to work with me, to go through Olympia and work together. That's awesome. I found that working with other shamans was ultimately what released the biggest energy. I was able to do a lot of the purification myself, which helped. But and a lot of times that's all you need to do. But if you do feel like it's not helping, it's not working, and you feel like, I really think I need to go through this Olympia and really see what's going on, then definitely reach out. If not to me, someone else that calls you, just an energy healer, a shaman that you trust, and that can go really deep with you. And trust is important because you're going pretty deep in this work and in releasing it, and you want to be able to really let go with the person you're working with. And like I said before, it can be a beautiful release, and it really is beautiful work. So it's not scary, it's not possession like we see in the movies, and it's not fearful. People don't leave the sessions with me in fear or terror. They're usually in bliss and joy and feeling peaceful and relieved and much lighter. So if you're new here, click subscribe. If you have experiences of this, feel free to share it. And again, if you would like to work with me, if you feel called to do that, then definitely I'll put my website at underneath the video, and reach out to me. And I hope that this has been helpful and that you have takeaways from this that really have helped you in some way. And if nothing else, to just be more aware and to know maybe what could be happening and what can happen, and how common it could be. So thank you for watching, and have a beautiful day.